Hello, it's Kim here, the Kiwi Health Detective, root cause and lifestyle medicine practitioner, healing without drugs. And today I want to do a little sharing of thoughts around science, and specifically how, as humanity, we seem to be worshipping on the altar of science, and why we may need to question this. So first of all, let's start with a quote, or rather a definition of what is science. So there are probably many definitions, but one that I looked up just now in the Oxford Dictionary: the systematic study of the structure and behavior of the physical and natural world through observation, experimentation, and the testing of theories against the evidence obtained. And the word science originally comes from the Latin word sire, which means to know. And I studied Italian for many years, and the word to know in Italian is conoscere, so very connected. So why is it that I feel it's important to talk about this topic of science? Well, over the past 4 years in particular, and before that, but very, very strongly in the last, well, actually 5 years now, there has been a huge battle going on between those who say that we must adhere to the science, we must follow the science, we do things through the speed of science, the science rules everything. And those people tend to be the people who are promulgating and wanting to move us in the direction of gene editing, transhumanism, which is the merging of technology and humans, and in particular the new mRNA technology. There is this very, very strong move, which I'm sure you're familiar with, to answer all our health problems through, for example, mRNA technology. And I will include a clip of what was very recently, last week, said about a new potential mRNA cancer technology, which was announced in the USA.
Once we gene sequence that cancer tumor, you can then vaccinate the person, design a vaccine for every individual person to vaccinate them against that cancer. And you can make that vaccine, that mRNA vaccine, you can make that robotically, again using AI, in about 48 hours. So imagine early cancer detection, the development of a cancer vaccine for your particular cancer aimed at you, and have that vaccine available in 48 hours. This is the promise of AI and the promise of the future.
But the point I'm trying to make is that we keep getting told by the powers that be that science is king, science has the answers, and anything else should be avoided. It doesn't have merit. It just doesn't hold any water, and we shouldn't listen to it. And I find this very troubling. And the reason I find this very troubling is, well, a couple of reasons that I can share. The first one is, over the past 5 years, I've done a huge amount of research into the history of medicine and how it started, and have been quite shocked at actually what has gone on over the last 150 years, and really coming to understand how modern medicine, which was founded around the 1800s, late 1800s, early 1900s, was actually started by bankers. And right from its inception, it was started by a group of very elite, wealthy people who wanted to control the whole system. And it is very connected with pharmaceuticals, but also agricultural, what is used in agriculture, what is used in war. So, for example, a lot of poisonous substances which were used in war were then brought into agriculture and then have been brought into medicine. It's really, really, really worrying. And if you want to know more about that, then you can look at my Hidden History of Medicine series, which I will be bringing out shortly. But the point is that if you understand the beginning of medicine, it was started by this group of elite bankers and wealthy people. And to be honest, we don't actually fully know what their reasoning was. But having said that, what is also really fascinating is that in the early 1900s, there were 3 conferences on eugenics, and eugenics means population control. And by the way, Bill Gates' father was part of that movement, and Bill Gates has actually said that we need to reduce the population, and that if we're successful with vaccines, that we will be able to do that. He's actually said that. He's on record for saying that. So we have been very, very conditioned for over 100 years now, 150 years, that the populace has been conditioned for decades into this paradigm of pharmaceuticals, the pharmaceutical industry, and medicine through doctors. And without us even realizing it, because we were already born into this paradigm, and so were our parents, and so were our grandparents, we have been brought up and brainwashed without even realizing it that the solution to our health problems is medicine and medication. And alongside this, there has been a huge media campaign, very, very planned, targeted media campaign, which has been going on in particular since the 50s, the 1950s, even before that actually, but it really ramped up in the 1950s when the radio and the television were started to be used for, for the population. And then, of course, through the government, because there have been huge alliances between these elite bankers and governments. And so the populace has been brainwashed and conditioned that the answer for health problems is medication, pharmaceuticals, and science. Now, what I would like to put to you, if you haven't already thought of this, is this actually true? Is this actually the case? Or are there other alternatives? Because what is really, really concerning is if you look at where medicine is going, more and more they're wanting to go down the technical technocracy route. And for some years, 2016, 2017, I was attending a conference in New Zealand, which was called the HINZ conference, which stands for Health Informatics New Zealand. And it was all about the digital age of healthcare. And I didn't really fully understand it at the time when I was attending the conferences, but now I see much more clearly what it was all about. And even back then, 2016, 2017, and this is a conference that takes place once a year in New Zealand, their main focus was on what technology can we bring into the healthcare system. So whether it was technology that's literally put into the body, or technology that is used to create XYZ solution, or technology that's brought into the offices of healthcare providers, everything is about technology. And interestingly enough, when I was attending these conferences, I spoke at them, and bizarrely won an award very unexpectedly at one of them, which was sort of weird because I'm a natural health practitioner, and I was the only natural healthcare practitioner at this conference full of tech people and doctors and medical specialists, etc. And I was there to present on, well, how we can heal without needing external intervention. In other words, the body is a self-healing mechanism, and it can do a lot of its own healing without the need of any external devices, any fancy technology, any medication, any supplements. That has been what I have been focusing on and specializing in for the past 35 plus years. And I absolutely know without a shadow of a doubt that our body is a self-healing mechanism, and that if we take away what is harming the body, which could be some sort of toxin environmentally or in our thinking, or some sort of trauma or unhealthy lifestyle habits, whatever it is that has put the body out of harmony, our body is naturally built to self-heal. But here we have governments all over the Western world telling us more and more that we need to rely on medication, and now these mRNA gene technologies where we're altering our genetic makeup. Now, I will also splice in a short video from Dr. Guy Hatchard, who was just speaking recently on the gene technology bill and saying how dangerous this gene editing procedures are for the human body.
I've had a number of people contact me in the last week or two, really sort of wondering, is there something here that is going to really benefit us, you know, some protein discovered or some cure discovered, and so on and so forth. And, you know, my answer to your question is there are lots and lots and lots of problems that need solving. But unfortunately, gene technology is not going to solve them. It's going to make them worse. And there are very scientific reasons for that. You know, humans have around 20,000 genes, but 750,000, 750,000 distinct proteins. So one gene doesn't produce one protein. Genes are multitasking. So that means if you replace a gene in the hope that you're going to get rid of a problem with a protein, you're going to get all kinds of other changes in the physiology that come along. And adverse off-target effects are inevitable. You know, genes are not little mechanical blocks. This is a living organism. I don't know whether any of you, I'm sure some of you have, had serious operations. When you have a serious operation, you realize what a living organism you are. It sort of disturbs, it makes your physiology almost nervous, because we're dealing with things, not mechanical blocks, but they're alive. And it's tremendously important for an organism to protect the integrity of its DNA. A quarter of transplant recipients, for example, develop cancer. And CRISPR gene editing, the so-called precise gene editing that everyone is talking about, is so disruptive that our when a person goes through a CRISPR editing procedure on a cell or cells, our immune system fails to repair the associated double-strand breaks in the DNA. Now, that's something that our DNA, our cells, do tens of thousands of times every day in every cell. But if you get one double-strand break, something totally ordinary in the physiology, as you do with CRISPR, they can't, the cell just simply struggles to repair it and makes a kind of poor job of it. The other thing I want to say is that these so-called miracle cures absolutely do not exist. You know, a program to treat cystic fibrosis with gene therapy, which you might have read in the papers, was tremendously successful. Well, so far, there have been 22 people who've had the procedure. It cost $5 million per person. And 77%. That's more than 3/4 of these people had no residual benefits after 1 year. Can you imagine spending $5 million on something which fails within the first year? You'd want your money back, wouldn't you? Another thing that Collins told us about, CAR T-cell treatment for cancer costs $850,000 per shot. Usually puts cancer patients into initial remission, but in 50% or half of those patients, the cancer reoccurs sometime in the first year. The side effects are severe, can be life-threatening. Now, I want to point out, this is a poor outcome compared to traditional cancer treatments, which we already use. So I think that I've given a long answer to this, Bill, to this question, but I think it deserves it. There's not something here. There's not a miracle that is waiting to happen. This technology is not working, and we've just lived through 5 years of gene technology, and cancers are on the rise. Up 50% bowel cancer incidence for working age people in the UK. Up 11% across the board cancers in Sweden. Here in New Zealand, the government hasn't published cancer figures since 2020. Why? They used to publish them every year.
The point of doing this little podcast, video, vlog, whatever we want to call it, is I just really want to help people to understand that we don't need to go down that track, and that potentially it's not even a good track to be going down, because it is moving more and more and closer to what is called transhumanism. And that is a whole other subject as well. Transhumanism meaning to transform a human into something else. And for example, I'm sure you've heard of Elon Musk, his Neuralink, him wanting to implant chips into the human brain, and there's lots and lots more on that topic, which I probably haven't even heard about, but I've heard enough to know that, whoa, this is concerning stuff. But the point is, there is a very real agenda to move humanity more from being a human to a transhuman, and there is what is called also a thing called posthuman. So what does posthuman mean? Well, it means whatever we are after we're human. They're literally these people who are into this transhuman agenda, they're wanting to change us into something beyond human. And again, Elon Musk has said that he wants, I can't remember how many millions of robots to be, or humanoid robots, to be walking the streets by, I can't remember the date, if it's 2030, 2050, I'm not sure. But this is actually happening. And a lot of people are unaware of it, because you've got to be sort of watching the right channels of news and media to know what's going on. And a lot of people don't know that this is going on. And in particular, if you're only watching mainstream media, you will not get this information. You just get fed what these people want you to see and watch, which will keep you numbed down, dumbed down, and brain dead. So for years I have been writing blogs about why is it that doctor is king, why is it that people defer all the time to the doctor having the answers. And it's absolutely time for people to wake up and see that this is not true. Again, if you look at the history of medicine, you can see exactly when this started. It started in around 1910 with the Flexner Report, where these wealthy elites deliberately put natural medicine aside. They didn't want people to know about it, and they wanted instead for people to start going to doctors and start taking medication. This was deliberately planned decades ago. And of course, we've just grown up thinking that it's normal to go to a doctor and the doctor knows best. And for years I've been saying, why is it that people keep buying into this? It's because we've been programmed and conditioned to believe it. And unless you start questioning and become aware to start questioning, then that will be what your paradigm will be. Well, I was in my 20s when my paradigm around health was shattered, not because I tried to make that happen, but because I wasn't finding the answers through the conventional medical system, and I started to research other options in natural medicine, and that led me to try over 250 different therapies, natural therapies, and to train in many, many different therapies which teach people how to self-heal without external interventions. I've read hundreds of books, I've done thousands of hours of training. I absolutely know what I'm talking about. I know that there are other options. And my goal is to help people understand that there are other options, that we can trust our body to self-heal, and that actually it can be quite dangerous to be using some of these novel technologies that these people are wanting to introduce. So really, we have been worshipping on this altar of science for decades. And in my humble opinion, it is time to stop. This is not a natural way. And fascinatingly enough, whether you believe it or not, I don't have any proof of this, but I keep hearing story after story, is that if you understand the even bigger picture of humanity and the previous epochs that have come and gone, for example, the epoch of Lemuria, the epoch of Atlantis, back in Atlantis in particular, apparently, we started to use technology far too much to the point that it was dangerous, and that was actually why humanity or that epoch of civilization destroyed itself, because we just went too far down that avenue and created massive damage to ourselves, and so we had to begin again. So we still have time to change things around, but we can't change what we're not aware of, which is why I love one of my quotes from my first Qigong teacher: all healing is awareness, becoming aware of what we were previously unaware of, and then we make new choices. So my goal is to help people make wise, good choices and to become aware of what they were previously unaware of. I'm just an information sharer. It's up to each person to make their own decisions. But I hope this maybe gives people some food for thought. Do we really need to keep worshipping on the altar of science? And is it even an intelligent, safe thing to do so? Personally, I think it's going against the laws of nature. And in our studies of Qigong, it's all about working in harmony with nature. And our body has the most incredible self-healing powers, but we need to learn how to implement them and instigate them. And that is what I've spent the last 20 years teaching people to do, and will continue to help people to do, and also obviously for myself. I have to understand it for myself before I can share it with other people. And do I know everything? Of course not. I'm always learning. There's always so much more to learn. But I know enough to know it's possible, and it is, in my mind, a healthier option than what this altar of science are suggesting, and in the direction that they are wanting us to go. So I hope this has been a useful conversation. This is Kim Knight, the Kiwi Health Detective, root cause analysis and lifestyle medicine practitioner.